So this week's video is just mainly about this car, but you've took some shots of the other cars in there as well, haven't you? So we've done a nice red 20 valve Quattro service for Greg on MOT, and we also fixed the electric aerial on that because the stereo was wired up wrong, so the buzzer didn't work when he opened the door for the lights and the aerial, so that's all been repaired for him. We've also done we're doing an M2 which has come in with a boost fault. We've tried all sorts, put a downpipe on thinking the cap was blocked, changed the DV. We've been through so many things, logging the car, trying different tunes in it, trying more boost down at the top, more boost down low. And it already had a tune on it, which we took off, and we thought it was related to that. But as we tuned it, we found out it wasn't related to that, and it had a hardware issue. As it turns out, there was a clicking noise, and the clicking noise was, we believe, the actuator inside. Maybe there was a tooth missing off the cog or something like that. So we replaced the actuator today, and hopefully when we go out in that, then that'll be okay, and then we can put our stage 1 in it then for the customer, and then he can have that back. We've also got a T5 on the ramp. That was it's a twin turbo. 170 brake, 2 litre, early T5.1, and the turbos failed on it. It's done about 180,000 miles. Those CFC engines have inherent problems with the oil consumption, which that looked like it may have got already. Normally it's the EGR valve cooler corrodes inside, and the bits of aluminium go through the EGR system, back through the intake, and then they basically go onto the bore wall, and they wear the wall and the rings, which causes them to consume oil, and also the valve guides in them are quite bad as well. That one's had the turbo. We've also used the Dark Side Developments, thank you to them, EGR delete kit, which you have to basically remove the EGR valve and the oil filter housing and replace it with a different one, and then you have a little elbow piece which loops the cooler around, so he gets rid of the EGR completely. So that problem is now gone. So if the customer then decides he wants to then rebuild the engine with us, then the problem that the inherent problem the engine has now been removed. So that will be that won't have the same issue again. So that's that one done. We've done a ton of other cars as well, but mainly this car, which is one of our customers from up north has dropped it in with a fueling issue. So he's bought the car through auction. It's a nice, clean, tidy car. It's had some sort of restoration done, but it's not running correctly. So at the moment, we've set the CO, we've set the pressures on the metering head and the control valve, or warm-up regulator as some people call it on the side of the block, but the pressure control valve is what I call it. We've also found all the vacuum pipes which run from the boost pressure point here. So it's vacuum and boost because it's in the inlet manifold. They go around to this, they go to this T-piece here. There's a one-way valve there, so it can't put positive boost pressure through the control valve solenoid here. And then what happens is when you go full throttle on here, there's an idle switch, which it comes off, and there's a full throttle switch. So roughly 55% throttle, that switch there, turns this solenoid off because it's always switched on, so it turns it off. That then allows the boost or vacuum to come bypass this way and then down onto the control pressure solenoid, the control pressure valve, which what that does, when you remove the vacuum, it's like an enrichment. So as it comes onto boost, then it enriches the car that way, because the ECU has no way of controlling that because it's all done through a mechanical fuel injection. So we found that, I had a Mitivac, which is this tool here. And what you do is you put the Mitivac on the pipe here and you create vacuum with the Mitivac basically. If you see the gauge there, if I show you, you just see it goes down like that, the gauge. So if it doesn't do that and it stays there, that means there's a leak in the vacuum system. So if there's a leak in the vacuum system, then the control pressure valve can't work properly. So we've basically repiped lots of this, made sure it's all piped up properly. It also, this vacuum system here also runs this pipe. This car's got a centre diff and a rear diff lock, so you can lock the centre diff and lock the rear diff. Well, I did notice when the car came in, it's in position 1, which would be the rear diff locked on. But when it's in position 1, it's actually no diffs are locked on, so I'm guessing that isn't piped up correctly inside the vehicle. So that's going to need looking at, but I've put a cap on there and I've isolated that now. So after I've done everything, because when that's connected, it still won't create a vacuum, so something's not connected on the vehicle internally on that pipe work. So that's now isolated. Unfortunately, it hasn't fixed it. So I'll just show you on here. So we're running basically stock boost, 0.6 of a bar, because these are the boost tracers here for the runs. So the boost's lovely, it comes under 0.6, runs across absolutely fine. Then you've got your torque and your power, basically. If I just stop saying basically, but if I just go there, then we've got your power, which is here. Oh, hang on, if I just change the graph in, it actually brings it up so it crosses over at the right point. Hang on, sorry.
2 hours later.
So, yeah, so your torque and your power should cross over around about 5,250 there. So basically we're running 174 horsepower. We should be running 200, but because it's running lean, I'm guessing that it's not got enough fuel there to run the extra power that it needs. That's normally what happens, so they don't make the power. So as you can see here, your fueling, we're at 0.9 lambda here, and we should be down at about 0.84 down here. So we're quite a way off the fueling that we need to be. I have also noticed that when you do a pull, the turbo is quite smoky. So the turbo being smoky is probably not the issue. That's probably just a seal. What I do need to do is check that the breather system's working correctly. That's the next thing, to make sure that we're not got a smoky turbo because of the breather system. And then we need to carry on and find out why. I've had the multimeter onto the fuel pump. Another problem these cars have is because the wiring's so old. I mean, this is a B-reg car, so it's 1985, so it's, as you know, it's a very, very old car. The wiring, when it gets old, can get resistance, so it doesn't run full voltage at the fuel pump, but this is actually running 13.5 volts at the pump, so I'm happy that the pump's working correctly for fueling. So I'm going to take another look, see if we can increase the pressure on the control valve. There's a little piece, so inside the pressure valve, there's like a biometric piece of metal, and it as the car gets warmer, it moves. It's two bits of metal together made out of something different, and they bend like this as they heat up, because the two bits of metal heat up at a different rate. So when that bends, it increases or lowers the pressure. So what we need to know is that pressure is absolutely correct. So I'm going to put some bits of fuel pressure gauge on the car whilst I'm running it, and then I can see what type of pressure we're getting. That's the next thing I've got to do now. The base pressure is fine, but you can also shim up in the head to try and increase the pressure, which should increase the fueling. But it all seems to be working right, but we've just not got enough fuel at the minute. So, and I can't go in the ECU and give it more fuel because it's all done mechanically. So we've set the CO on tick over, so the air fuel is fine on the tick over. It all passes an MOT, so that's done. So basically now it's down to trying to increase the pressure somehow to see if I can get it to run the correct lambda. But I can't, there's no point in me trying to run more boost on the car to get the power, because it's going to run even leaner. So what I really need to do is increase the fueling of the car, and then hopefully basically we'll have fixed it and it should increase the power. So we're only 25 horsepower off where we want to be, which is not a lot, and it's probably just the fact that it's running lean. It needs more fuel. These cars love more fuel. So when we tune it, when we put an aftermarket ECU on, we run these at like 0.78 lambda, so they make more power with more fuel, so that's why we're where we are. But ultimately, I'm actually going on holiday on Monday for a week, so this isn't going to get done before I go. I will try and finish it tomorrow, but if not, then there might be another video on this and basically what fixed it in the end. But that's it really. So another Quattro in. There's also the black Quattro down there as well with Adams. We're hoping to get that finished for September. That's had an awful lot of work, but we'll probably do like a few videos on that to do that. But yeah, that's it.